Welcome to Through the Hurricane. I'm Kathleen Kane, the first woman elected Attorney General of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Have you ever looked down and seen the pieces of your life on the floor and wondered what happened? You haven't just been through a storm, you've been through a hurricane. Sometimes we think that we'll never have joy, we'll never have love again, we'll never have a normal life again. But Through the Hurricane will teach you that the power of love and resistance and the human mind can do anything. We all experience a hurricane, but the human spirit is indestructible. This is Through the Hurricane. Let's walk through this storm together. Sometimes in life, joy and heartache arrive all at the same time. If you've listened to our last few episodes with Dale, Linda, and Liz, they're mothers who lost their children, and they all basically said the same thing about the process of grief, that everyone handles it differently, that there isn't a playbook, there isn't a timetable. And some of them even said that there might be a difference even between the way mothers, women handle it, and men, fathers handle it. So far, we've only heard one perspective, and I'm honored today that we're going to get to show a different perspective, because fathers grieve too, maybe in a different way. Today we have our great guest, Joe Grohusky. Hi, Joe. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me. A pleasure to be here.
Well, thank you. I mean, what you're doing today, I think, is obviously very difficult, but you are giving a different perspective, because we do have a lot of men listeners. Everyone probably thinks it's just a women's podcast, but it isn't. We have a lot of men listeners and viewers, and a lot of people are suffering out there. And I think sometimes men suffer in silence. And I'm glad that you're here to give a perspective and to show them that it's okay to talk and to grieve. So thank you.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here and talk about Max. And I don't actually talk about it too much. It's not like every day where you're talking about it. It's actually been a while, probably since. It's actually probably easier to talk to sometimes strangers about what happened than it is even your own family to go back and relive. And people don't actually say like, hey, how you doing? What are you thinking about? So for me, the past few days, actually thinking about this podcast, I've been reflecting, looking at the pictures, and some of that's, some of it's tough, right? I mean, just thinking about his twin brother today and where he's at, and would he be proud of him? And I think he obviously would be, but it's an interesting journey that still goes on, but it's clearly a formative time of my life when tragedy happened.
Yeah, and that reflection, I know even, from Linda and Dale and Liz, they went back too, and they said they thought about things that they hadn't thought about for years, that they kind of locked away. And I know it's a difficult journey for you all, and so again, that makes it even more special, the fact that you came here to help others, and I appreciate that.
I think that's the main reason I came here, because, I just hope that some people can resonate with because every day someone has some kind of tragedy, whether it's the loss of a child, a parent, or someone I know you had on your show that was act of random violence. There's stuff happens every day, and not everybody deals with that in the same way. And hopefully, my perspective can resonate with someone and help them as they move through the process, because it's a journey.
That's exactly right. So why don't you tell us about your the first birth that you had with your wife was twins, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Did you know you were having twins?
Yeah, I mean, when we had the sonograms and all that kind of stuff, and we knew, because I kind of wanted to be prepared. Glad we were prepared, because we knew we were having twins, which was just really special. Obviously, having twins your first, and it turns out they were born on Christmas Eve, so which was made it even more unique and special. And just remember waking, like when they were in the hospital and when we were just had the babies, just being overwhelmed, like, wow, like we got a lot of responsibility coming up, and just
two
so
lives
much joy.
Is a lot.
Yeah, it was but special at the same time, so it was just you had a lot of work ahead, but you knew it was a real special thing.
Yeah. I was also thinking about this, and I was trying to picture, my mother always told us the story of our birth. I'm an identical twin, and she didn't know she was having my sister. She only thought there was one. And
surprise.
Well, she was smoking a cigarette, and the doctor came in and said, put the cigarette out, you're having another. And my mother said,
Give me another.
no, I'm not. And the doctor said, I'm telling you to put it out right now. Yes, you are. And that all happened within 7 minutes. But my mother said her very first thought was sheer panic. I
Yeah.
don't have 2 cribs. I don't have 2 strollers.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about you with you have 2 heartbeats and you have 2 cribs and 2 strollers and you have 2 futures
Yeah.
that you're looking forward to, and these 2 boys traveling through it together. And then one moment changes that.
Yeah.
One moment changed 2 lives just between the 2 boys. Tell us what happened.
Yeah, I mean, the story of Max is kind of so intertwined with Nate. I mean, his twin brother. I had worked. We lived in Springfield, Pennsylvania. We were, the boys. The twins were 18 months old at the time. I was working from home, and I actually had a nanny because, I couldn't do my job and take care of the twins, and I just needed that rest where I can, focus on my work and have the nanny deal with the kids. And that week, they both had like little colds and fevers. We were managing with, Tylenol and calling the doctors, but they were on the mend. And then, every day I would go. Towards the end to pick up my wife, where she was working from the train station. That day I just remember seeing the boys in the morning. They both looked fine. They were on the mend and happy. I saw Max and Nate, and then they went with the nanny, and I went about work. And I remember that was weird. I went to Jiffy Lube that day. I got an oil change, and then I had to pick up my wife at the time at the train station, and it was coming back from that ride from the train station where you're on your street about a block and a half away, and you see fire trucks, ambulance, police cars on your street. And my initial reaction was, it must be my older neighbor. Sometimes she falls, and like the fire trucks have to come. And then you see like there's activity at your house, and it's just like, this immediate, it's an immediate like, you're just in that zone of what, fight or flight. What's going on. This is my house, like this is serious.
Right.
And just from that day just kind of just took a whole different lens. I mean, I remember coming up, and as we were coming up to the house to see what was going on, there was Max was being carried out, by the paramedics, and I could just tell by looking that he looked like he had died. Oh. It just didn't look good. And then,
where was Nate?
Nate, yeah. I mean, I'll never forget this because right after that, I told I just called my dad. I'm like, Dad, I think Max is dead, and that was like the first thing I remember after I saw him get carried out. And then you're talking to the police, and you're like, well, who's? And then my wife went in the ambulance, and I was trying to sort out what was going on. And I remember looking across the street, and Nate was with my neighbors, and he had like this wiffle ball bat in his hand. He was looking through the glass door with them, and that image to this day is seared in my mind because it just made me feel like he's there, not knowing what's going on, his brother, like, and just the total confusion. It was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And just to this day, that is the image just seared in my mind.
Well, I never usually image this early.
It is like, I can distinctly remember the wiffle ball bat and everything, and like him being through the glass door, like looking across the street, like not knowing, that was always a big concern after, was just how is he going to react? How much do you know? Right. I mean, 18 months,
because that's
old.
what I'm crying about.
Yeah.
I'm crying about
how much
him
do you know?
Looking at his brother leaving.
Yeah.
And that's hard.
That is hard. And there's a blessing and a curse in the fact that it was 18 months, I think, for Nate, is that you don't, they're not talking too much, you know what I mean? They're just starting to learn to talk and things like that, and not able to verbalize as much. But I think, looking, he doesn't maybe remember as much, but we always kept him alive, so he knew. But it was hard to tell, like, if that was how it would affect him. But he turned out. Right. Nate's doing fine and well, and I think he's a well-adjusted and happy kid, so it's all good. But
that's good. Did you believe in the whole twin thing about how they can feel each other and feel each other not there and feel each other's pain or anything like that? Did you ever have that concern?
Well, that's. because they're every day, they're right next to each other. Like, I think some of the photos I shared, they're just like, and they're total opposite, but they're, always with each other. And
Did they have their own little language, did you feel?
yeah. I mean, they had their own little personalities and their own little language. And yeah, that was a big concern with, what would he be missing because of that, connection of being twins.
Right.
And I think, today he's he does remember him and he honors him, and so I think he does, feel a connection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, you said when it was sometimes maybe a curse and not. I think people need to know at the age of 18 months, some people may say, well, they did grow up. You didn't get to know them that well. And maybe you didn't, but you know what? You know your own child almost from the day that they're born, right? What was he like? Like, what did you think
I mean,
like?
that is the kind of, there's like a paradox in it that, I kind of was reflecting on this when I was thinking about it is when Max died, you look at, wow, like all this potential he could have, what would he be today? What would he be doing? And he missed it on the stuff. And then the flip side is like, he died innocent. I mean, he was a happy, sweet little kid. Like he only experienced happiness and love. And, he didn't have to go through having to get a job, worrying about money, like,
a divorce,
a divorce,
right.
death in the family. Like there was no, when you're at that age, you don't, luckily, I mean, he didn't experience any of the negatives that come with just the grind of life. And
That's right.
I find some comfort in that to know that when he passed, he was an innocent 18-month-old that, didn't have to go through the pains that all of us, whatever it could be, go through and experience that you died in that perfect kind of state of joy and wonder and development. And so for me, and it might not be the same for everybody. I think some, I was thinking about that. Some might look back and they think about, well, like he didn't get to play Little League and baseball and football, and he didn't get to, get married. But I kind of, think about the flip side is like, life is tough and so much happens every day, and you muddle through it. And like I'm kind of in some ways happy that someone didn't have to experience and go through, because what it's like, and that people died someone died not having to experience the tragedies that just everybody goes through. Right. So that's how, I mean, I've always looked at it as more of a positive than he missed out on or something.
Are you a naturally positive person?
No, I am.
Oh,
not.
no?
I'm not. It's funny because I'm a very skeptical and critical kind of person, but and so it's interesting, I guess, that I would look at it like that.
Okay, so now here's my question, because as we discussed, this podcast is about people's hurricanes and their storms through life and how they made it through, because I am a naturally positive person. Mm-hmm. I wake up in the morning like I'm a brand new baby. Yeah. Like, oh, it's a beautiful day. It's going to be a great day.
Wish.
I'm quickly dashed most of the time, but I do wake up like that, and I try and find the best in everything. It just comes naturally to me. But I know it doesn't come naturally to a lot of people. And I think what my goal was with this podcast was to help give the people who it does not come naturally to a way to find it, and a way to find hope, and a way to get through that struggle and then find other things. And our other guests, I think, have certainly proved that. I mean, they had a purpose after the death of their child, and that purpose is what helped them through all of it. So I love the fact that you are not, podcast-wise, that you are a cynical, unnaturally optimistic human being.
Yeah, well, I guess when it comes to that, I mean, and part of that, I guess, is my faith in like growing up, and I think the thing I struggled with the most when Max died, and this was years of kind of dealing with it, was like I believed in God, and I believed in heaven, like I'd gone through Catholic school and all that. But when Max died, I just didn't feel, in my mind, the big question I had was, is he in a better place? Mm-hmm. And that tore me like for about 3 years. Like I remember talking to one of my friends, his dad's a Jesuit teacher and things like that. And I remember talking to him like, he was just coming over and I'm like, I just want to know and feel Max is in a better place. Like I logically like have learned that there's a heaven and good people go there and he's innocent and I think that, but I don't feel it.
You don't feel it.
And,
Right.
and that was a void.
Right.
And that was the grieving part. But I think, what happened was kind of a little bit, I guess, looking back, a transformation of my perspective on that. And, because when you think, it's like, well, why did it happen? How did it happen? Like, was it the Tylenol? I remember at the time there was like a Tylenol thing. I was like,
So you didn't know for months
No,
what
months,
happened to
yeah.
Max. And you were worried about Nate then too, right?
right. Yeah. I mean, literally. So like going back to, after seeing Nate, I mean, the rest of that day was like, I remember being driven to the hospital by a policeman and I was bawling, just hysterical on the whole ride there. Takes me into the emergency room where my wife at the time is and my brother and me, and they're like trying to revive Max. And like they were going on and like I could just I was looking at Max and like I could just tell he's dead, and they're you're praying, we're saying our fathers and things like that, and then I remember just saying, Doc, I mean I know you're trying to, but I can I think it's done and
It's traumatic to
Yeah.
watch the CPR.
oh I mean
and
just
things like that.
the CPR, I mean his eyes look you just you could just tell when someone
Yes,
is there
you can.
and not,
Right.
and even if it was kind of like, wow, even if he miraculously did, I mean what kind of life he had. But anyways, he it was we got a lock of his hair, which we still have today. And,
But you still had no idea what had happened.
yeah, so we didn't know because and I had to basically at the time it was like, was the nanny, did she do something,
Yeah.
everything. I was like, get her out of the house. Like I don't know.
Right.
We don't know. Like, why didn't she know earlier? Blah blah blah. Was it something a Tylenol he took and I remember having to write the coroner's office all the time, what's going on, what's the status, was he asking me what happened, was it something preventable, whatever. And
So you lived 3 or 4 months,
months
you
without
told me, right?
without even a
In
cause
fear.
of without knowing what
Yeah.
the official cause
Yeah.
of death was.
So now you're in grief and fear.
Yeah, and
Right.
frustration of what happened.
Right.
You just want to know what happened, and why and how, and and that night, because we didn't know what happened, we're taking after you leave the hospital, you're going down to another hospital to CHOP to make sure that the twin's not going to die. Because what if it was Tylenol, or if it was something else, or they had a certain underlying illness that we didn't know about,
Genetic disease.
yeah, whatever. I mean, he got I felt so bad for him. He got a gazillion blood tests at the hospital, a poor little guy, and his brother just died, and he's down there. Am I gonna is he worried? Am I gonna die too? And we're worried. Is he? That was you're dealing with that dual. We just had death, but we have a living son,
now
twin.
panic.
What's going on? We were immediately calling the pediatricians. They did all the tests in the world, and it turned out, after all that, I ended up writing and being frustrated. It ended up being natural causes due to sepsis. So there was basically some kind of underlying infection that didn't quite go away, and then rapidly overwhelmed the body.
Because he's so tiny.
Because he's so young. It's with the old and young people, their immune system could just basically didn't wake up from his his nap.
Right.
But that was the longest day ever. I mean, you're dealing with one death and hoping, and down the hospital, and it was tough.
We always say, life doesn't just give you one. Sometimes it gives you
right.
a couple in sequence,
In a short
or
span
maybe
of
all at
time,
the same
or
time.
yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about that 3 years.
Yeah.
In the meantime, I can imagine that you were struggling every day to find something, to hold on to something, to hear something someone would say that would kind of make it click.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, I not just know he's in a better place, I actually believe that.
Yeah.
So what were you like in those 3 years? Were you looking for ways to find that connection?
I mean, a lot of things in those. I mean, first you have to find, what is your why? Why go forward? And you had a clear why, and we had Nate and another boy to take care of, right? You can't just give up. So I mean, it was clear. It was just, that was the primary thing that was driving me and getting me through is just the sheer responsibility of, you still have a son and you still got to work and you still got to do all that.
Yeah, pay the bills.
Yeah, I mean, you still got to pay the bills, and there's clearly and all that. But for me, we actually ended up deciding to have another child because we didn't want Nate to be an only child, and we thought, after we had time, we thought Nate, we had Jacob, and so Jacob is 3 years difference from Nate, and
that must have been a really difficult decision, though. Once
and
you
we
suffer that loss, you're kind of like, do we want to take another chance?
Yeah, and we talked about it, like, it was, we kind of felt that we didn't want Nate to grow up to be an only child, having been a twin and seen someone in his life, right?
Having felt someone.
Yeah,
in his
right.
life,
And so, like, having that for 18 months, and for him, it just felt like it would be for Nate, really, to have someone. And, we ended up having Jacob. And again, like, all during this time, I think I was not quite at peace, if you will, with where, like, feeling that Max was in a better place, and I think the most significant thing that happened to me was when I was with Jacob, when he was just an infant at the time, and I had been thinking about, Max and kind of sobbing, like, as I'm rocking little Jacob in the middle of the night, like when he woke up, I was just kind of tearing up and just thinking about, like, is he in a good place and this and that, and then, Jacob's hand was just started rubbing my face, like, out of nowhere, and it was like, Dad, I'm in a better place. And that was probably, to me, the knowing.
Big sign. That's a big sign.
Yeah, I mean, sorry,
that's not even a subtle sign. That's a pretty big one.
Yeah, that was tough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I think we might have to take a break because I feel the same way. I feel like I can't even talk.
I can go through it, but even though I think about that all the time, I don't know. I got a little. Yeah, sorry. Just let me get a little tears out of the eyes.
So Jacob's got this beautiful little soul to him, apparently.
Oh yeah. I mean, I was and actually Jacob looks. He resembles Max.
Oh, does he?
I think I actually, when I sent you some photos, I think maybe 2 of them might have been Jacob, because it was like when, and I actually we have their photos, like their first year of birth, like each month, pictures for Max, Nate, and Jacob. And when I look at Jacob and Max, they have they similar looks. Yeah. So I was thinking about that too. Sometimes maybe part of Max is in Jacob, you know what I mean, in terms of personality that would have been or whatnot. So, like, that's the other positive part I think about, is maybe there's some
you see something.
Yeah, maybe, that's my thought.
Yeah. Okay, so that is kind of your pivotal moment.
Yeah, that was the first one where I finally felt like it was a sign like you just felt like it felt like, like basically Max reaching out and saying, don't worry about me. I'm in a good spot, in a good place, and probably better, better than what we all have to deal with. And then, and then, like, even I'd be in the yard, a couple months later, and thinking about Max, and a cardinal, like, flies right up to you, like, kind of a little hello, I'm here, kind of thing. I think things, and then I think the other thing, the last kind of sign, if you will, that I had was, and this might have been like 12 years ago or so, and I had gone to Max's gravesite on the anniversary of his death, which was April 29th, and I'm there kind of just thinking about Max and a little sad about it. And then one of my best friends calls me and says, I just had my daughter was born today. And it was just, to me, kind of like the circle of life kind of thing, where someone leaves and someone comes back, that maybe it's, a sign that they're still there.
Right. I always think of, we grew up semi-Catholic, I'm going to say. My grandmother was very Catholic, would make us go to church, which we loved. But then, my mother had 4 kids and divorced, and she'd give us our quarter to walk down to church. And unfortunately, there was a bakery right before the church. We would go in and spend our quarter, and then we would say, well, we can't go to church now because we don't have anything in the basket. So we just sat outside and waited. So when I say semi-Catholic, that's what I mean. But it sounds like, you kind of were on that cusp of you have been taught it, but you don't actually feel it,
Right.
and you don't actually believe it. You're only going through the motions
Yeah.
because somebody wrote it somewhere,
Right.
and that's what you were taught to believe. And was that a struggle for you? And how did you work your way through that?
Yeah, I mean, I think those moments kind of take, like you said, there's the hope that like he's in a better place, the hope that God is there and taking care of him, that the hope that there's a heaven, to the, you know, to the belief and the knowledge that he is in a better place. And so those signs for me were kind of that, you know, you're taught all this, you believe it like logically, but you don't feel it, you don't sense it, you haven't had signs. And then I think until I had those kind of things we talked about with, you know, one with Jacob kind of rubbing my cheek and, you know, a cardinal floating in, those were reinforcements to me that I had now known. I no longer hoped. I believed, and I knew that he was in a better place, which led to a lot of comfort. And I didn't have to spend my days questioning, like, why, what, how, and is he? And that goes with that kind of disconnect and emptiness. And then I felt more at peace.
Yeah.
I guess that led me to the initial, I think, at peace. It took about, 3.5+ years to be, and I think that was, I mentioned to you the book Crossing the Threshold of Hope, and that's what kind of that, I never understood that title, but looking back, it's the hope that, you know, there's a God, there's a better place, to the belief and the knowledge that there is, and not everybody, I think, is gonna come to that in the same way. You know, for me, it took a lot of reflection and some signs, but you have to be open. Sometimes when you look for those signs, you know, they don't come, but sometimes they'll just come out of the blue. You just have to kind of be open to them, I guess.
Yeah. I think you had a perfect description of it. Emptiness.
Yeah.
I think when you don't have the hope and you have that fear that, you know, your loved one is laying in the ground there, and that's their future now, and there's nothing else. And then you just have that complete emptiness. You don't think that they're someplace else. You don't think that they're, you know, not alive, but, you know, their spirit is still living. It's just not on this earth. Then you do feel a terrible emptiness. My sister went through it. Yeah. She and I are complete opposites, by the way. She's much more your cynicism. But when my father died, you know, we were very close to my mother and my father, but my father died first, and she felt this awful emptiness. You could see it at every turn. You could hear it in every word she said, and, you know, there was no joy left. It was almost like this anxiety, fear, but emptiness, I think, is the perfect word for it, and almost untethered. Yeah. You know, and then she just kept saying the same thing. I need a sign. I need a sign. I need a sign to believe, right? But some people don't get signs. So the book that you and I talked about, Crossing the Threshold of Hope, is how do you get from, I know I should feel like this, to I actually do feel that way. And you said that book was one of the
that book was a big one. I mean, in, you know, reading it, it asks kind of the fundamental questions. You know, why do good things happen to bad people, right? You know,
well, why do that?
Yeah,
what does that book tell us?
Right?
Spoiler.
Well,
Why do that?
I mean, I think when you look back, I mean, unfortunately, it happens like the way it seems to happen in life is you learn the most and grow the most through the most painful kind of experiences, and hopefully the goal is to take that pain and translate it into positives, you know, the best you can, because, you know, what else are you going to do? You have to have something that sustains you to keep you going every day. And you know, hopefully you can turn those negatives into positives. But I agree, it's like not everybody gets those signs, or you don't know, like for me, I mean, I think part of the reason maybe I'm divorced is like we didn't grieve the same way. I might not, she may not have the same signs, and you know, it's you just don't know.
Now, in episode 6, Mothers of the Round Table, Dale Hadley told us that she and her husband Jack grieved in completely different ways.
Yeah, definitely.
They still do. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how many years later, but they still grieve in different ways. And she said that they were lucky enough, you know, that they didn't separate because of it. But you did separate.
Yeah, and I definitely think it's a factor, you know, a big factor, because it's, you know, because I had those moments, but like, and she, you know, didn't grow up like a strong Catholic faith or anything like that. And I'm not saying that was, but it was a different grieving. And I mean, what we did both end up agreeing to, I was starting a foundation and try to, turn that into a positive. But, I kind of really, to be honest with you, I don't really, didn't talk enough about probably, right? Like, how are you getting through this? And it's like,
do you think that's a man thing?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I'm pretty, keep everything inside and just, move on.
Look strong.
Yeah, I mean, look strong, but I mean, like, I'm always like, but I look strong, but like, I love to, connect, because like, what drives us all is, right, our humanity, the things that happen. Like, I love like engaging and talking about those things, because that's, it's not about just making money and going to work, dying. I mean, there's got to be more, right? And you have to make that more, but it can be paralyzing if you, in some ways you have to be positive about life, even though I'm a cynic. It's
you kind of have to figure it out. You
muddle through it.
You muddle through, and the why me and why do bad things happen to good people is a big thing, because then you're like, well, wait a second. If it can happen and I'm good, well, why don't I just be bad? Or why even bother?
Why do I need this lesson? I mean, that's one of the things I thought, and I think it's,
bother?
It's part of it is to write the lesson for me, and where you appreciate life a little bit more. I mean, obviously it's a reset on your perspective. Yeah. It's like, you could be going about your job and doing your, getting the oil changed and, paying the bills, and then all of a sudden, that's not what that's not what it's about.
Right.
And I don't know if I needed that lesson, but I got the lesson that, right, life is short and temporary, and you got to step back and appreciate that, because, I think it was right, Steve Jobs at some point, if you think today's your last day, at some day you're going to be right. Yeah. I mean that's kind of a, it's a true quote, but you can't live your day to day thinking, well, I'm going to die tomorrow, and because it leads to,
because then you have a lot of explaining to do the next day. Yes.
But for me, again, like, I think people are more resilient. I mean, just from the interviews that you've had with others, is people are more resilient than they think there are.
Sure.
I mean, amazingly resilient, because you look at somebody and say, like, oh man, how do they go through, like, their dad got shot, or they, someone died from drug over. I mean, you think about it, because you think about the pain and the process of that, but like, people do, and it's amazing, because I think people have to find an anchor for why you get up every day. And for me, that shifts from yourself to your, you and your wife, to your kids, and then, for me, it was just about taking care of Nate and then Jacob, and that's my why, and and that's enough, for me right now, and it's kind of a good anchor to say that's why I drudge through work, and
So the book, let's get back to the book, because I know that that was important to you, because you did get the signs. Yeah. Did you read the book after you got the signs?
No, I had read it. See, that was, to me, I had read the book before, and I just thought it was a great perspective on, and well researched and by scholars and things. Pope John Paul II kind of talking about those difficult questions. So, again, that's where I logically, like, wow, this makes sense, it resonated. But until I had the signs, I don't think I understood what that book meant in terms of crossing the threshold. The hope is the hope that God exists, the hope that there's a better place to the belief. And for me, it took kind of some interventions, I guess.
Well, they say, growing up Catholic, they say you have to have faith. And what is faith? It's blind belief. Right. Yeah, blind
that's what
belief.
It is.
It's not a sign.
No.
You don't get those.
And that is it.
Yeah. So
that's not easy.
That's not easy. No, it's not easy, because we're logical people too. We're not built to just blindly go through our entire lives. We may be able to take a scenario and do it, but can we do it, especially in such a massive, difficult time and such a massive loss? Can we do it then? And to an innocent child too. I mean, that's a hard pill to swallow. But as you said, you had to go through that. It took time. 3.5 years.
Yeah.
Were people trying to rush you through it?
No, I mean, because I don't think I was like in a, you wouldn't know I was feeling empty or anything, because you're not you're just kind of going about your business and taking care of, again, the kids, the family, the house, and doing your job. And so it's just there under the surface. And I think, but 3.5 years, I think, till I had faith and felt comfortable that he was in a better place and I didn't have to worry about that anymore.
That's good.
That was, and to this day, I think it's that sustains me, and that I don't look back at that and, I'm in a negative way. I look at it as, he's in a better place, and hoping I get to, hope to see you there.
Do you worry about going forward, with Jacob or Nate? Do you worry about something might happen to them? And, you went through it once, but darn it, I don't think I could do it again.
I mean, that is the one thing that's still, hard, is you're kind of like always living life like, well, that thing could happen, and like, when's the next shoe gonna drop?
Exactly.
What's like, you're obviously over paranoid about your kids in certain circumstances, maybe because of that happened before, how much you want to hold on to them and not let them have their balance, and how much freedom you give them versus like, because car accidents can happen, whatever, it's like, hey, I don't need another tragedy, like right. I don't need another car accident.
And the way that you react can actually affect, their lives. If you're overprotective,
right.
then you're actually now putting how you feel onto your child and not letting them live.
Yeah, they can't put them in the bubble, right? I mean, it's
life,
like,
right.
For me, it was with Nate, especially to say you can't put them in a bubble, and because it's not the way the world works. I mean, sometimes the more you try to do that, I mean, it's
the more they rebel.
Yeah, or
right.
So that's just been my kind of philosophy. It's finding that balance, right, between trying to be mindful that stuff could happen at any time, but you can't let that, I guess, paralyze. And I'll admit, like, there's times where I do get paralyzed by like the worry of that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And you want to curl up in bed and just say, like, don't let anything more happen to me. I'm
good.
I'm good. I don't think I have the energy to, because sometimes I wonder, like, sometimes I get a little like, hey, I don't know if I have enough energy to deal with another one,
Yes, lightning does strike
twice. Right.
Yeah, and it does. It's, I'm not even saying that in a glib way.
No, I know.
It does, and then when you first think, I can't go through this again, and it happens again, it's just kind of like, just like you said, oh my God, did I really need this lesson this badly?
Right.
What's happening here?
What's the purpose of that lesson?
What's the purpose of it? Right. I guess we all need a purpose in our life, and we need to know the purpose of what happened, but sometimes there is none.
No, I think one of the books I remember that, I think it was Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning. That was it's always been one of my favorite books. And, just how could someone who's been through, Auschwitz and a Nazi concentration camp, like, survive that?
Yeah.
And, he quoted kind of Nietzsche, like, he who has a why can bear with almost any how. And that's the point, is no matter what the situation, you can choose how you want to think about that situation, and you can provide the context of, it's either going to sink you or sustain, you can find something sustaining.
Right.
And so for me, I always believe that, and you got to find that. I think that always helps me and you're always reevaluating, because like, what's your why and what's your purpose when you're younger is like, I just want a house and a good job. And you think like, kind of, I got it all. And no, that's not, that's right. There's other, that changes over time. Like what drives you and sustains you. Because when I was younger, I just wanted a house and have a few beers and like have a cooler full of beers and just like, friends. I made it,
Yeah.
And that's
one of our guests,
it.
Bill Bender, said the same thing. Remember him?
Yeah.
He said
the different stages. I heard him talk about that. Yeah.
And it's so funny because that's exactly how it is. And I have a lot of nieces and nephews, 2 sons who are in their 20s, and a lot of them are like, our 20s stink. Like, we should be doing this or we should be doing that. I should have more money. I should have a house. So-and-so has a house. I don't have one yet. So-and-so has a child. I don't have one yet. Yeah. And I try and convince them all in separate ways that you're exactly where you're supposed to be right now, because this is a phase. This phase teaches you something. Yeah. Enjoy that you're being taught it. It's uncomfortable. Yeah. It stinks, right? But it is. And then the next one is a little bit easier. And then the other one is now like, oh, wow, I see this whole thing from this 30,000-foot view. And I wish I knew that when I was a little bit younger.
Yeah, no, it's definitely true. I mean, And then you look back and you're like, wow, those were great times when I was in my
Completely,
20s and
yeah.
30s. And
Right.
I think that's the thing. I think today, that does evolve, like finding continual motivation and to be positive about things and look at things in the right way and do the right things. It's because once the kids grow up and they're out of the house, then like, what's it for me when
What's
it's
next?
not,
Right.
And I don't have that answer.
Yeah, I don't either.
I mean, I don't have the secret sauce to that, but it's definitely
I have a
an
question for
ongoing
you
struggle.
on it's kind of because you are our first father
Mm-hmm.
who has come on, and I'm wondering, I only am asking really because I don't know the answer. Typical unlawyer like, usually they say if a lawyer asks you a question, they already know the answer, but that's not true. I know that when things happen to me or to my friends, or the women in our family, women really gather around each other and really support each other. What is it like for men? What was it like for you with your family and your friends?
Yeah, I mean, I think number one, it's obviously huge to have a supportive family and network around you, family and friends. Wouldn't have been able to, I think, cope and deal without that help. Just from brothers, sisters, mother, father, and just close friends. Just having a network of family that are there, not just in the immediacy of whatever the tragedy is, and seeing you through that, but just even after that. I think for me, I just kind of being with my friends and not treating you any different,
I was going to say, how do your guy friends treat you? Because I
mean,
know how women treat us.
It was kind of like, for me, just looking at it, like, it could be as simple as like, love you, bud, there for you, a hug, which we don't do like, every day,
Regularly, yeah.
but like, like just during a time where like, they're there, and they just, it could be as simple as, giving you a hug, like, I'm here for you. And just, I don't think we need a lot.
It's kind of like so men are definitely different from
Well, I
women
think
in
their
many
friends
books.
treating you no differently, like, right? I mean, that's part of it. It's not them, like, I think if they were treating me differently, that would have been kind of, weird, and it would have been hard. But if, like, we're still going, for beers and going out and going to golf, and, we're not talking about, like, how's my, but, like, just being normal to you, right?
Yeah, right.
I mean,
Okay, yes.
that's, like, I think just knowing, like, you don't feel nothing's weird or different, and, it's just that it's solid, and they're there for you, and
you know it.
And that's comforting. And so I think with guys, it's maybe more just doing your normal, whatever it is you guys have fun doing, that it continues to do the same. It's not like, oh, we need to stay away from, give them space. It was never like that.
Did anyone treat you like that?
No, not at all. I mean, I think it was just the friends would be, and family would be around, and, just, to this day, they're still, involved. So I think that it helps a lot, as just having that network of support.
Yeah, of course. I can't even imagine, doing things like that alone. I can't imagine going through life alone. I read once, decades ago, that human beings are forest trees. No one knows what a forest tree or what the significance is, but forest trees are all, large mass. They're all together, but when you start cutting around the perimeter of the forest trees, then all the perimeters start to die because they need each other. And I think human beings are forest trees. We need each other. We may not like it. We may not like each other sometimes. We may not want it, but we need it.
No, I mean, one of my favorite quotes is kind of an idle mind is the devil's playground. It says, like, if you're just kind of not around socializing and talking to people and living in your own thoughts, it's a dangerous place, so, I think having people that you can go have, and it gets a little tougher as you get older and people have obligations, right? Kids go to college, and so it gets a little bit harder, but trying to maintain that really helps. But I mean, social isolation could be a really tough thing, and I think that's what the story of the tree is if you let those,
if you don't let
if you
people
let them
in,
die,
sure.
if you don't
you have to let
go
people
on
in.
living and have networks and friends and times that remind you what the good things about life, right? The
What's
simple
your
pleasures.
favorite thing about life now?
To be honest, I'm in a phase right now where both my my boys are playing sports, and like, so today I'll go to, my son Jacob has a basketball game, and my why is like just watching them develop and play sports. And like, I loved high school, and just to see them in that phase, it's it's right now, that is my why, and what makes me happy is just love watching sports, love watching them play sports, love watching their friends play sports. And now that's my social life is probably after a basketball game we'll go with like the parents for a few beers,
pizza,
pizza and beers, where the kids can eat and play video games, and we could just drink, and that
talk about your kids.
That's good enough for me.
Yeah. Do you wish people would bring up your son Max more, or is it just the perfect amount?
Yeah, for me, I don't have I wish people would bring it up, but I was just thinking, I don't. It's been a while, since I've kind of talked about Max and the whole experience, because it's not like every day I'm,
right.
That's a casual conversation. But I think it's been about right. But I think in some ways, I think it's been getting away from me, like where I haven't, this is like an opportunity to reconnect with that, because it's been, almost, whatever, Nate's 17 now. So, it's going to be, almost coming up 20 years in a few years, where that's a long time. So I've been kind of reevaluating that, am I, too caught up in the day-to-day again?
Yes, right. Oh,
right.
It's
right. I've actually been thinking about that, just am I in a routine, and am I doing what I should be doing?
Yeah. Does
it
scare you then you're going to get a lesson, a tap?
It does.
Yeah,
it does.
Yeah.
And so I'm worried. And to be honest, that's, I think, drains my energy sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Is that I still think that at any moment a bad thing can, I've divorced, this and that. When I had a cousin who died recently, all that kind of stuff. It's you're just not sure if you have the strength. But I think again, and that's why when that stuff happens, you just really feel for people, because when you've gone through it, you're you just know how exhausting it is, and you don't think you can do it again. But I probably can, but I don't. Please.
Well, you know what? You have no choice. I mean,
right? There is no choice.
And seriously, it's astounding the strength of the human spirit.
Yes.
It really is astounding. I took a trip to Haiti once, and the people there are, I think about them sometimes because they're almost like my muse sometimes. They get up every morning bright and early. They have pressed clean clothes on, even though they are dirt poor, and they sell their wares out on the side of the street. There's no complaining. Their children are dressed in, they go to school, and if they can. And to me, that is, and after all of that, my God, they're in a civil war, and they have earthquakes, and their families have been wiped out, and but they still have this positivity to them and this spirit to them that I was always baffled by.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think those kinds of experiences. I remember even when I went to prep, we did a service project to Mexico City. Went to an orphanage, and you're like, wow, I have it good, compared to this, and how are these people doing? And I think for me, it is good to stop and say, hey, you're worried about this. You have 2 great kids today. You have a house. You have a job. People have it much worse. Mm-hmm. People are having a tragedy today. You're not having it. Be content with that.
Perspective is, I think, a big.
Huge.
Yeah, it's huge. And, for anybody who's kind of oh, well, what do I think about it? I don't mean that. I mean perspective in the way that you can always say, I have it good because I have a roof over my head where they don't have a roof over their head. I may be eating sloppy joes, but at least I'm eating, something like that. And to remember, I remember once somebody said to me, when I felt like my entire world was just collapsing, there was literally nothing that was going right. It was collapsing. The only thing I had really was the health of my children. When I say only thing, that was the most important thing to me. That's what got me up every single morning. They're still alive. That's all I care about. But somebody said to me, keep it in perspective. There was this blue dot theory or something like that showed you the world and then showed you where you are on it, and you are like this pinprick of a blue dot. and everyone else around you has so much. There are more things going on around you, and it also shows you that you're not the only one.
Yeah.
You're not alone in
Right.
your suffering.
And I think that's the key, is just people knowing, like, because it's the shared experience, the shared humanity, where people like will find that motivation to go on, to get up, to go to work, is that people go through it, and every day around the world in some form. There's some have literally gone through the hurricanes, right? And metaphorically or otherwise, people die. I mean, it is happening, and so you got to kind of sometimes shift back and forth, but put that perspective that, like, sometimes, we if you have it pretty good, if you think about other situations, but that helps. I think a lot is just you have to kind of,
It's not the whole thing.
No, but like solution, how you view the situation you're in is the key.
That is the key, and you have to.
And what do you
grip?
What drives you to keep going? Your purpose for getting up every day, and like I said, I still struggle with that. I mean, it's not, I don't have it ironed out, but I think people, you have to kind of muddle through it at times. Sometimes you have to take that time to like curl up in the bed and just not want to do anything, and don't do any work.
That's right.
And say that is not, if I die tomorrow, am I going to care I didn't get this report done? Or if my son is, dies, am I going to care about this, silly,
report.
Email I need to do?
Yeah.
But like you could look at that the other way, and it's like, oh my God, if I don't get this done, I'm going
to
lose my job, and
Yes.
I mean, right? And it could go into.
But that's kind of the perspective too.
Right.
It doesn't need to be done until tomorrow. If you need to, Liz Scott said to me, if you need to take a rest, take a rest. And she's right. There's nothing wrong with taking a rest, because we need it. We need to take a breather every now and then, and we need to say, I'm okay, they're okay, nothing's wrong today. I don't know about tomorrow, but nothing is wrong today.
Yeah, and I think that's why, like, sometimes you need to work a lot to be in a zone where you're not thinking about other things, and then other times you need to, take that time to say, I'm not looking at emails and thinking about work today. I just need a day for me to unwind and have a glass of wine or whatever it is. Like, and so for everybody, how they get through it, and it's not the same. And I think it's not the same over time. Like, I don't. I think that it's a constant everyday thing about how do you keep muddling through despite tragedies and bad things happen, because it's a lot of them come at you.
Yeah, they sure do. But I always like to say, Christopher and I, we call it college. I don't know if you saw those first couple episodes, but my Italian friends called it college. So when I was in college, I would call them every day, because that was one of the few things I needed. Have a cup of coffee, a shower, call the boys, and go outside. So I would call them every day. But it's hard to talk long distance with somebody every day. You know what I mean? You run out of things to say, and it's, I didn't want to make it weird for them. So anyway, Christopher and I almost devised this little system of, we'll describe your day in a song. And I remember his once was, Ain't No Sunshine When She's Gone. And mine once was Jimmy Buffett. And it was, some of it's magic, some of it's tragic, but I had a good life all the way. Yeah. And that's kind of, it's so simple, but kind of sums it up.
Yeah.
I hope the last sentence sums it up for people, but it does for me.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's a good way to think about it. And I don't know. I'm just trying to think. It's hard for me to think about, like, because I don't know how women grieve.
Yeah.
But like, I think guys, like that question you said, like, guys, I think they do grieve differently, and I think it is more internal. I think guys do, at least most guys I know have the primary feeling of, my job is to take care of my family, have a house, pay the bills, make sure my kids have what they need, is just takes primacy.
Your job.
It's not that you don't have time to grieve or what, but that's like job number one of your being. Like, at least for me, I think that's a fundamental difference. At least what I think is, job number one every day is like, am I providing for my family? Is there food on the table? Is there a roof over the house? Do the kids have what they need? Do they have the clothes they need? That's primary, and secondary is whatever I think. And so I think I don't need as much, I guess, in terms of like to help me grieve. I just need some little reassurances, I guess, from people that they're still supporting you, there for you,
or that you're doing a good job.
Yeah, or that you're, and like, that's, I think, I like, part of me looks back and just says, I think, Max is and would be proud of Nate and his brothers, and and I think you just, as long as you feel like if I feel like I've done the best I can in those areas, I think that for me is worth it.
Yeah. Linda Beret said she got up every morning because she had to be the mother that Cody remembered.
Yeah.
And I think that I've never heard anyone say that before, but that is so powerful.
Yeah.
Right?
I could see, because I'd almost, if I just like had curled up into a ball and not done anything, I think, I would have, like, Max would have like felt like, I wouldn't feel worthy.
Disgusting.
Yeah, I really, I would not feel like, a good human being. I mean, it's like,
where's my dad?
yeah, like, what would I do? Like, just become a drug addict and OD? That's, maybe some people might do that, but talking about how do people get out of it, I think it's just, you try to force yourself to think about what, there's people worse off, and you can make it, and you can do it. You can pull through it. You can navigate through, and it sucks, and it's not easy, but, I think you'll find out you're more resilient than you thought you were.
Exactly right. You
Even
never
though
know until
you find
tested.
Yeah, because you never know, because you weren't right. You
That's
never
right.
gone through it, and then then you go through the pain, you go through the hurricane, and you realize, like, yeah, I don't want to do it again, but I got the skills to.
Yeah. Well, you see the light through the storm,
deal with
then,
it.
and that's exactly right. I did do it. I did live. I will live again.
Yeah.
Yes.
We'll muddle through it. Well, I hope this is helpful.
Yeah. Oh, Joe, thank you so much
Yeah.
for being our guest. We're so glad that you're here, because I do love your different perspective. And as we say, everybody goes through a hurricane, and we're glad that you were brave enough and cared enough about other people in the forest trees to come up and let us know.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been, like, actually good for me to revisit and talk about it, because it's been a while. So thank you for the opportunity, and hopefully others will, find some resilience in their lives because of it. So
Yeah,
that would be a positive outcome for me. Is just the reason to do this is hopefully it helps others, because for me, although it is a little self-healing for me to talk about it, and it's been a while. So thank you.
Well, thank you.
Go ahead.
Before we end another episode of Through the Hurricane, I want to give a shout out to people who have supported us along the way, because sometimes I wonder, are we helping people? I hope people are getting something out of this, because I do really care about making a difference in that area. And just so happens, like Joe says, you get signs along the way. So I wanted to thank Francis and Mia and TJ for every now and then when I'm feeling a little unsure of myself, they always come through and send a text or an email or a gift, and I appreciate that. So thank you. Thanks for listening to Through the Hurricane. Please like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time.